All right, and here we are on, it happens to be Freedom Friday, but I'd like to introduce Adrian Hanks.
Hey,
How are you, matey?
good, Tommy Gillard. Really good, mate. Thank you very much.
Okay, thanks for reflecting on the intro there. Okay, it's just another shabby day in paradise. I notice you're in the room, mate. You should be here with me at the Gold Coast Corporate Project studio.
Yeah, it should be, mate, but I had a massage earlier on, so I'm having a bit of a chilling afternoon.
Oh, very nice. A Freedom Friday for you. Well, yeah, it might have to be Social Saturday for my freedom. For my massage. All right, mate. So look, it's funny. Well, it's not funny. It was funny that we had to cut last week, part way through getting to some juicy bits actually about your past lives. Now, I don't know if you can remember where we got to, but I think we were at the baking stage, somewhere around there.
Yeah, I think I was talking about
my
Tassie days and
that's it.
Living down there with my tribe, yeah.
Right, absolutely. So, if you can you take us from that point to move us forward to where you are today, and some of the things actually you've done, a few things that really impressed me, apart from an instrument that you play. In fact, giving it away, I might be able to see a couple of them in the background there.
Yeah, here they are, in
the
back.
There we go. So yeah, take us through the rest of the journey in finding Adrian Hanks, no relative of the famous Hollywood.
I think I mentioned previously, Tommy, that from Tassie there was a move to the mainland.
Right.
So we moved 10 years in Tasmania, and then moved to the mainland and started to do some study. I thought I might become a school teacher, so I signed up to do my first year of teacher training in the Rudolf Steiner College in Melbourne, and I did 12 months there, and then I had a opportunity to go and do a work experience as part of the training.
Right.
And I ended up going to a place called the Ian Gawler Foundation, or the Yarra Valley Living Centre, which is a centre for people dealing with cancer.
Right.
And I went there, spent a whole week there, and as it happened over the January, February months, when I thought I'd go back into doing my second year of teacher training, and then doing the government qualification around it, a job offer came up at the Gawler Foundation, and it was for organic biodynamic groundsman gardener, to look after the gardens, work with the clients in a therapeutic perspective of teaching about nature. So it was one of those juncture points in my life where I had to make a decision on whether to go into that teaching space. And I really thought hard about it. I thought, what do I really want to do? And I didn't really want to be a child teacher. I wanted to be more of an adult teacher. And I thought this would give me more scope into getting into working with the organisation. Had a good cause, obviously. It was an alternative cancer retreat centre where people came. It was all about meditation, vegetarian food, mindset. Ian Gawler is quite a well-known Australian leader, meditation leader, community leader in understanding the dynamics of alternatives to treating and working with cancer. So I took up the position, and I spent 3.5 years working with Ian at the Gawler Foundation, and that's where I started to drop into a deeper understanding of meditation, nutrition, became a vegetarian, really sort of to embrace that deeper level of probably more the physiological, because I was already meditating, I was already following Rudolf Steiner. I'd already been doing that for 5 or 6 years. So this was like getting into the body side of things, the health side of things in terms of nutrition, food.
Right.
So Ian was a great teacher. I was part of the management group there, so I started learning about leadership in terms of management, organising in the organisation, and taking on some new roles for myself. And then I did some more training on leadership training, got my Cert 4 in workplace and assessment training, etc. So I'm actually a qualified trainer. And then from there, I started to immerse myself more into the Steiner world, got more into the spiritual dynamics of things. And around about that same time, around 1999, 2000, so going back 20, 21 years now, I went to a few lectures by a guy called Yehuda Tagar, who had a college called back then it was called Persephone College, Persephone being obviously one of the Greek goddesses.
Of course.
Of course. And so I started then to do the psychotherapeutic training to become a psychotherapist and counsellor with him in 99 I started. Did about 3 years of that. I did first year, second year. And then around that time, went through my separation with my first wife. And I found myself in South Africa to go and see Yehuda, my teacher. And by, fate, karma, luck, whatever one wants to call it, I ended up staying there and living there for nearly 2 years.
Wow.
And ended up repeating some of my training, and then going into my third year of the psychotherapeutic training and becoming a teacher, teaching the first years, and also got a job just outside of Johannesburg, which was a contractual job, converting an organic farm into a biodynamic farm. Now, biodynamics is awesome farming based around Rudolf Steiner's work. So I lived in Cape Town, and for 8 days a month, I flew to the farm just outside Johannesburg, spoke to the farm manager, put all the plans into place, ran workshops. So that was pretty much how I made my living in Africa, my teaching, training, working on the farm. So Africa became part of my life. Pretty challenging time because my children were in Australia. I was going through separation, so there was some pain around that, emotion around that. But for me, it was about finding me in that space too. I redefined who I was.
Yeah. I can totally relate to that. Obviously, you and I have, been through this almost twice. Well, twice basically. It's just paperwork that's being sorted. And it's interesting too how you wanted to find yourself. Obviously, there were some answers there, and I think if I look at my experience in the corporate world, and I'm sure there's many that are in there right now, and some of the data we see coming back on the executive lifestyle assessment, that the execs they think that they're going to be fulfilled at some day down the track, but it's not happening today. The thing is, unless it's happening today, it's never going to happen unless you actually change something. And correct me if I'm wrong, but in your own inner state, some stuff that you do need to sort out. And so, it's funny, I was so much in that space moving towards where you are. You've kind of been in that space moving more towards sort of where I am with a lot of the physiological and so on, which has obviously been important to you and has always been important to me, and so has my career. But there's a sort of and I guess that's why you and I sort of connect, especially that psychological point, but there's more of an overlap coming in the things that we do, but we have our specialist areas to be able to bring that together to the executive world.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. You've been in the gym space a lot longer than me. I've only been in the gym space for 4 or 5 years, and it's like, it took me a while to get there. It's like I just didn't really like that sort of, physicality of getting in the gym. It's like
a lot of the meathead stuff. Yeah.
Sit me in a meditation circle, I'm fine. But so that was my learning, was to get physical. And as you know, I've done a few runs and things in the last few years, so I've really got into that. So I sort of, a bit like what you said, Tommy. I was healthy, but I wasn't fit.
Right.
And now I feel quite fit because I'm doing the physiological.
Isn't that interesting?
Workouts.
Because I was fit, but I wasn't healthy.
Yeah.
Right. Whereas you were kind of healthy from the food and all this biodynamic stuff, which is amazing. I was going to ask, I mean, you could start up a winery, have some biodynamic wine. I mean, perfect, right? I'll have to see if we can do something about that in the future. Yeah. So, all right. So then take us from where you got to then, moving forward to getting closer to today.
Yeah. So South Africa was an amazing time for me. It really was my time of getting, I suppose, to the next level. Adrian, I was actually 40. I flew to South Africa on my 40th birthday. And so through my 40s, it was Africa, then came back to Australia with my new wife, who was from Cape Town. So she came across with some of her family as well. And we started a life in Australia and lived around the place, country Armidale, Brisbane, Sydney, and now back to the Goldie. And probably the last decade or so has really been me establishing myself in that next level of my vocation as well. getting a real sense of what I'm doing. So I've been, I've had my, been in a few different pies, mostly doing my psychotherapeutic work around coaching and counseling, but I've also ventured out into a few other avenues. I set up a charity 5 years ago, the Blue Wren Foundation, based on men's work, looking at men's relationship education and the prevention of conflict and family violence. So that's been a big journey, setting it up as a charity. I'm just about to go to GDR status now and get that happening this year.
Right.
Trained several men to become trainers in that as well. Had a few pilot programs over the years. So that's still sitting in there in the periphery to reconnect to and do more work with, particularly around the corporate space. And I love that work. I love being in a workshop space, 20, 30 people in a room. I just come alive in that space. And the other thing, Tommy, probably to touch on is I'm a writer. I love to write. I've got a drawer full of, this was my first book. Is my little children's book, Wendy and the Fairy Ring Secret. Which I'm just going to duck off and get. I'm going to jump off the screen for a second.
There you
go. This one's about 8 years old.
Oh, wow.
So this is my little children's book. It was illustrated by a friend of mine, and I wrote the book. And then 5 years ago, I went into the foray of writing Where Am I Right Now? Physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually. And this is mostly around my work in that psychotherapeutic field, with lots of exercises in there for people to do to bring them into alignment physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually. It's very much based around anthroposophy Steiner. Got a bit of my history and story in there. So I'm currently rewriting that. This will be republished probably towards the end of the year. As times change, my story changes, and there's more to put in there. So I've just completed, or I'm completing my first novel. So
jeez,
really
a slouch.
Yeah.
And what's that about? Are we allowed to know?
Yeah, I'm not going to give the title at the moment because that's a bit of a trade secret. But it's actually a sequel to a well-known novel that was written. And what I've done, I've taken a futuristic approach, and I've written about a positive future, because right now, with COVID particularly,
couldn't we do with that right now?
So it's a book of hope, book of a new way of being, a new way of living, and that'll be hopefully published in August. Is the date we're setting for a book launch. So pretty exciting. And just on top of that, just to, because I'm sitting here in my thunder, I've also just invented a little board game. It's going to be trademarked next week as well. So I showed you earlier, Tommy, the new logo, new sound.
Yes, that looked really cool.
So, mate, I'm never idle. I don't have a busy life, but I have a full life. Very different than busy.
Yeah, no, you got your fingers in a few pies, that's for sure.
So just recently, mate, just moved to the Goldie, sitting in my apartment, just focused on my game, my book, my rewriting. Cap, of course, is taking up some really beautiful energy with you.
Yep.
And then just getting back into that client space, working with some clients, online and offline. I've also got a 12-week life mastery program that I've created with 12 videos on that in my spare time.
Just for something to do while you're twiddling your thumbs.
Yeah. So ultimately, I think, to sum it all up, I love being creative.
Yep.
I just love being in that creative space. And I love to help other people get their life on track too, in my coaching and counseling. It's my greatest gift is seeing a client at the beginning of the journey and seeing the changes at the end of the journey. It's like, that's the reward.
It is, isn't it? I mean, that's what, in the corporate world, it's a bit, you get to do that, but within a pretty tightly defined structure, and it's not always your way on how that happens. And that's what I enjoy too, it's like enjoying getting a reasonably good hit rate on, testimonials and stuff from, satisfied customers that are going from one point to another and becoming physiologically a lot better shape, and to a degree mentally as well. Of course, you can't have one without the other. As they find out, a lot of people come thinking they want something versus what they actually need, which is where, a good coach, be it a health coach, physiological coach of any description, is going to be good at. you know, the way that we've also molded this 7 days that we look at with, you know, Move It Monday, Taste Tuesday, was it Wellness Wednesday, and then we have Thoughtful
Thursday.
Thoughtful Thursday, and we've got
Freedom Friday.
Today.
And Social Saturday.
And
Soulful Sunday.
Soulful Sunday, right? So we get that balance through the whole week. And, you know, I've been so buried in the left brain side and career and so on, to then, once I kind of stepped off the cliff, to then venture in an area that you've been working in for, was it 25 years or something?
Yeah, yep.
Right? And that's where kind of humanity is heading right now. And if COVID hasn't woken people up to that, then God, what will? You know?
Yeah, that's the question, is, you know, what is the wake up call?
Yeah.
Yeah, what is it? And the question is, Tommy, because what I say to people is, everybody's wake up call can be slightly different.
Right.
You know, not assuming that everybody has to have the same wake up.
You may get a few of them as well. A few taps on the shoulder along the line.
Yeah, I'm getting a few myself, mate. Don't worry. You know, I'm getting woken up to the fact that what I really want to be doing on the planet is to be more creative.
Right.
Even more creative.
Yeah. Same.
I said it's a great way to do this. A little bit about maybe for the people watching in. If you can define the 2, 3, or 4 things that you love in life, and go for them. And mine are teaching, traveling, and writing. They're my 3 core key life aspects, if you like. I still love relationship, I still love family, still love lovemaking, still love to be, you know, doing other things. But my 3 core things that I would get out of bed for every single day: writing, traveling, and teaching.
There we go. There it is, right?
Really clear about it.
Isn't it funny? I mean, I sent a post out yesterday on the group, on the CAP group, and it was saying, you know, it's like 3 important days in your life. It's like the day you were born. You know, this is accepting kids. It's about you as an individual. You know, then the day you ask why, you know, why are you here? And then the 3rd day is moving on to the next dimension, where you're going down a tunnel. Instead of it coming out and through mum, it's like going down through another tunnel and seeing another light. You know? So it's interesting. So we've got about 6 minutes. The reason why is I got to jump on a different call. So I didn't want to hit you in the head this time and finish it off. Just so you know, so we can get the important stuff out. But as we look to this weekend, beautiful day here on the Goldie. Of course, not all the world's, you know, going to be as fortunate as this today. But going from Freedom Friday, yes, sir. You know, there's a price to pay for freedom too, as you very well know.
Oh yeah.
But here we are on Freedom Friday, Social Saturday, Soulful Sunday. So, what's the outlook for the next few days for yourself, and how people should be thinking about coming off on Friday, Freedom Friday? Yeah.
So one probably caution about Friday is that old paradigm of, hey, it's the end of the week, let's
booze it up. Distraction. Let's party.
Yeah, and just in terms of that consciousness, Tom, we're talking about peak performance and peak states, you know, and if you want to have peak state Saturday, don't ruin it by a Friday night.
Oh, yeah.
Because you won't get the peak on Saturday if you have a rough Friday night.
If you go too hard.
So the question to ask maybe is, what do I want to peak at on Saturday in terms of my social Saturday? Where's my peak social moment? Can I be really engaged with my children, my partner, my friends, my family, my community in a conscious way rather than the blur?
Right.
And also not taking maybe the workload into that space as well. So what do you need to do to let go of the workload? Maybe it's a meditation, maybe it's a good cathartic run or a gym workout or whatever it is, or a swim, just to let go. Or as I've said before, maybe if there's a hidden agenda still sitting there, like some conflict, go and deal with it today. Go and deal with it on Friday. Make the phone call. Have the meeting in the office. So that's, you know, that peak performance Saturday socially, because we can be peaking our social outlook as well. Yeah. And then going on to Sunday, how can one peak in terms of a soul space? And you know, for me, you know, we'll actually talk about the soul on another time, because that's a whole
big Pandora's box.
You know, and there's many interpretations of the soul, of course, as well. And I've got my own, and I'm happy to share that. And for me, the soul isn't just one identity. It's like three aspects of the soul that we work with continually.
Interesting.
But in terms of, the soul generically for Sunday, I can get more in touch with self.
Right.
Because for me, that's what the soul is. It's about the self. It's about the emotions. It's about the connection to the sensitivity of who we are.
Yeah. It's funny. And it seems like my next one is running a little bit late. I just saw some messages coming through. So we've got a little bit of latitude. But, when people say, one of the best bits of advice that I got, in life was be yourself.
Yep.
Everybody's kind of heard it, right? But what does it mean to be yourself? I mean, it's like, who am I? Beyond the conditioning and the programming, working my ass off at work, and then looking after the next to my task list with the kids at home, and tomorrow I've got to be footy coach or taxi, right? And then life being so frantic, which is why I think some forces beyond us put COVID-19 down on the planet. How does someone what's the first step they take to find out who the hell they are beyond their left brain and all the other activity, to listen to I'm guessing it's coming from the heart, somewhere around there, but.
So for me, Tommy, two things I feel are essential to find myself. I call it the mirror work. Stand in front of the mirror.
Right.
Stand in front of the mirror every day for 5 minutes and just ask yourself, who am I? I'm serious, like physically go and do it. Look at yourself physically.
For 5 minutes.
5 minutes every day. And just look at the mirror and just say, who am I? Like physically, like get to know. And then what's behind the physicality. And the other thing is solitude. Go and spend some time in solitude. Go bush.
On your own.
Yeah.
Right. No distractions.
2, 3, 4, 5 days, if you can, obviously not for everybody, but even if it's 15 minutes a day, just sitting with self, without the phone, without the computer, without your partner.
Take the stimulation away.
Without stimulation. And just go inside through some meditative process and go, who am I? And have a notepad and start writing and journaling.
Right.
And asking those questions. I was talking to a friend yesterday who was talking about a workshop he did 20 years ago, and they had to identify and define what it was to be a man in the workshop. And they had to come up with 3 things.
Yeah.
What makes you a man? And this friend of mine, he told me 2. I won't share the other one, but too personal. But he said, 1, I'm a man because I've fathered children. So, physiologically, I'm a man. Said, secondly, I've been to war.
Wow.
I went in a boy and I came out a man.
With PTSD?
No, he's very lucky. He went to Vietnam.
What made him?
He did now.
What is it that he feels made him a man coming out of that experience?
All the experience he had to face the biggest fears, facing death.
Yeah.
Mateship, friendships, connections, people, responsibility. People, suddenly he was responsible for lives, his own and others. Camaraderie. There's a whole range, but in essence, as he said, he went in a boy and came out a man, and it made him a man. And there was one I won't share, but yeah. So just that question: who am I as a man? Who am I as a human being? Who am I as a person? What's the core aspect of my being? Who is Adrian?
Right.
Or who's behind Adrian even? Because Adrian's just another label.
Yeah. And it's funny, it's like if I look at, let's say, my 28-year career in the corporate industry, it's like I didn't get a chance to go and spend enough time doing that. Yeah. The list of things to do was long, distractions, and the fun and the travel, and some great stuff that came out of that. Of course, I learned a lot of stuff, but in one particular box.
Yeah.
And how much of it was connected to me, I don't know, because there's a certain amount of survival that gets piled on you. If I don't do that, then this is going to happen. If I don't do that, then this could happen. And it's like you're spinning a bunch of plates and you're juggling a lot of things in life, that you're running so much from something that could be a catastrophic potentially, that you don't get that opportunity to go and look inside yourself.
Yeah. And the question there, Tommy, too, is how much of the ego's in play as well? How much egos are playing in that space?
Well, I mean, when you get so overwhelmed, that defense mechanism is there for survival, right?
Yeah.
To protect. And absolutely it does. And then it becomes, I guess the challenge is it becomes automatic.
Yeah.
Like for me, and, without going into my genome and type of human that I am, it's a fast mind and it's quick to respond. And, you know, my mouth can be my biggest weapon. You know, what's it doing? It's creating negative energy, and I'm just protecting myself from some vulnerable thing. Inside me. So
if we look at, you know, from Friday through to Sunday, ready for Monday. This is more about the self.
Right.
You know, we're dealing. You know, Monday to Friday is like dealing with people.
Yeah.
It's
Transactions, very transactional.
So then it's almost like, well, Friday, you know, coming out of Friday, Saturday, Sunday, it's almost like recharge time as well.
Right.
Recharge the batteries, connect with self.
Right.
And then the trick is how much of that new or deeper aspect of self can one take back into the workspace on a Monday? Because the vulnerability of doing that, you know, the vulnerable space as well. Like if I show, you know, if I take part of my mask away, what am I showing? So that vulnerability can come on board, of course, particularly if you've got a key position where there's a particular way of being in the company. It's been there for 10 or 20 or 30 years.
Culturally,
And then suddenly you've got to change the paradigm, which is what we're all about. Of course, we're changing paradigms. So the risk of paradigm change is quite big. But without the risk, there's no change. And people know that in business. You know, sometimes a business will take risks.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's it, isn't it? I mean, you're having to go and find yourself and to do something different. The cultures and organizations don't turn on a coin. And if you're turning on a coin, then you've got that gap or distance that may be starting to grow. And if you ignore that stuff too long, you start to get that cognitive dissonance that can then start to grow into, I guess, chronic disease.
Yep, totally. It's always got to go somewhere, isn't it? If you spill your water out of a cup,
right,
it's got to go somewhere.
Right.
Yeah. So it's always movement. The same as, you know, if we're stuck in a place, it's got to go somewhere. And for us, it usually goes into an organ, you know, bodily organ, or goes into the veins or the blood, and then it atrophies or we get sick, and that's common. You know, burnout in the industry is full on. You know, the health industry, the IT industry. You know, 3, 4, 5 years, there's always the beginning of sign-ups, and then what's the cover-up? You know, work harder,
booze,
bit more alcohol, bit more booze,
women,
women, or, you know, steroids in the gym. You know, because it's, you know, it's full on. So
thinking you're being balanced when like everything in moderation, including moderation, because if they approach it with the same mindset to be, okay, I'm going to be balanced now. That's not going to work either. The stress is still there. You're still operating in the same type of machine. Would you say?
Yeah, I would. And I'd say what we've got with our 7 key days, with all those different, that's balance.
Yeah, it is.
You know, we're bringing a 7-day balance into the paradigm.
And you touched on this a moment ago. We're taking that Sunday into the Monday. So we're going from, you know, like all week was transactional to then the weekend is more relational. Hopefully, at least, right? To then, how does this actually become life? How do you make this all seamless? Because, you know, the money, as I sort of say, being left on the table at the work week, which is all transactional, is if you start to bring the relational stuff into that, bring the heart stuff into that, bring the care and being a real leader, right? To stand up for your people and help them grow, then the returns are significantly more from a personal point of view. And part of it's going to be financial as well, because of the energy that you're starting to bring. It's different.
It is, yeah. And for me, the new paradigm for a leader, you know, there's a lot of, you know, people talk about thought leaders.
Yeah.
For me, that's not enough.
No, it's not enough. Not today.
Because thought's great, you know, we can go all the way back to Freud, who was, you know, a thought leader because he was always in his mind. Yeah. And then we have that, if you like, the heart leaders, those that lead with the heart, without a lot of thinking, you know, it's just purely love, which is great. And then you get those will leaders who just lead with the will. It's like, you know, Napoleon Bonaparte, you know, like, you know, I'm going to lead from the will. We're going to drive my army forward.
Well, King Leonidas.
The new paradigm is working from the thinking, the feeling, and the willing.
Right.
The head, the heart, and the will.
Right. All of them.
All of them. For me, that's the leadership I'm trying to deliver for myself as a leader, but also the inspiration for me when I look across the world of who's out there currently leading from the head, the heart, and the will.
Right.
And a good little exercise I'd like to throw up for those watching and listening and communicating and connecting is maybe, can you name some of those global leaders that you believe are working from the head, the heart, and the will? Let's see if we can find at least half a dozen world leaders right now who are leading from that space. You know.
Whoa. I think we're a bit lackluster at the moment on world leadership.
Yeah, so it's interesting to go and have a look around.
Yeah.
And I'll do the same, and let's see if we can find one or two.
Yeah.
Type in there to say, you know,
it'd be good.
Yeah.
Sorry, but yeah, it'd be good for someone to give their example of a great world leader that's out there today.
Yeah, well, I'll write Tommy and you can type Adrian. We're going to go.
Okay, there we go. All right. It'll be a leader off. Let's see what happens.
And then maybe write why. Why you believe
even
it.
better. Yeah, absolutely.
You know, why, from one's own perspective, why do you think that's true for you or for me?
Right. And something to aspire to, and people start to create the vision of the leader they'd like to become, perhaps.
Yeah.
And then, breaking it down to the steps on that intent.
Yeah.
And then imagining what that would feel like, and then the journey to get there, which is step by step.
Yeah. So I'll kick that off with a name.
Yeah, let's do that.
For me, it's Bob Proctor.
Bob Proctor.
I'd say, I don't know, it goes back a long way. Bob is, been working with Think and Grow Rich and the academy out there. He's in his 70s now, Bob.
Yeah.
He's very astute, like he thinks really clearly.
Yeah.
Think and Grow Rich, he's been studying that for 63 years, so he's probably got that just about up.
Think and Grow Rich, yeah.
He really does come from the heart space, like he does connect with people. He's got some empathy around him, and I've actually got some friends who've met him personally. I haven't yet, but it's on my list. Right. And he's also got a drive. He's got a multi-million-dollar company, got companies all around the world. He's up and about. He does hundreds of lectures every single year and workshops, and so he's engaged. Yeah. So he's got even though he's in his 70s, he's got the physicality, he's got the drive, he's got the will.
Oh yeah,
he's got the heart.
Yeah.
He cares about people, and he's a smart cookie.
Yeah, totally.
So I'd say he's one of the global leaders currently who I admire.
All right. Then I'm going to put mine on the table. And I would say right now, and it's kind of in your space, but he's about measuring and he's about science. You might be able to guess who I'm going to say. Joe Dispenza for me. I think he's on the cutting edge of measuring, if you will, and I don't want to bastardize it, but the spiritualism and in finding oneself and taking the risk into what he calls the blackness. And the thing is, he is measuring this with encephalographs and so on attached to the brain and showing the brain going from beta, which is like what we operate in the sympathetic mode during the day with stress, alpha to theta, and then off to sleep into delta. But he measures it. And he's saying, here it is. This is a common language. This is not about religion. Here's the science. And what he's getting people to do where they're changing their genes through their own signaling frequency that they're creating in their brain is freaking amazing. And it's proof. He's got proof, right? Yeah. So, And he's all heart. It's all about love. Every time you listen to these guys, it's Greg Braden and many of the others, they're all coming from the heart.
Isn't it interesting around that? I love to debate this one, and I know we've got short time, but maybe it's another debate up. But this idea that we need to scientifically measure something, because one knows that for me, in the spiritual realm, for me it's true. I don't need to measure it because I know it's true.
Right. Yeah.
So there's always a question to me of if you go and experience it, you don't need the evidence because you're living the evidence.
Look, absolutely.
So there's a question around who is the science for? It's for the people that don't jump into that blackness that Dispenza's talking about.
Yes. Look, it's that the plank, that thin bridge that people can walk that have that I think, this is all woo-woo. They'll say that, right? And now I'm left brain heavy developed. Somehow I've got a reasonable right brain, if you believe my Reiki practitioner and so on, right? And other tests that I've done. And
I've seen your empathy and your love, mate. I'm with you.
Thanks, mate. Yeah, it's other people need to believe me though. So thanks for the reference. But science is a good step first. But I've always been in that case, and I remember being in the corporate world and saying, "Hang on, whoa, whoa, whoa. Just because you can't put this in the spreadsheet doesn't mean it ain't so. Just because you can't see it doesn't mean it ain't happening." Right now, Wall Street doesn't bank bills on that, and this is like the old paradigm. The cracks are appearing, I think, in that paradigm right now, right? And if COVID hasn't accelerated that, then what would? But it has. And I think people, the old systems, the old structures, the old traditions, the old paradigms, cracks are appearing in them, I think. And, sure, we can show people on science and they say, that's bullshit, that's BS. Do you think? Okay, we'll show you the measure, but it doesn't stop there. This is happening too, but we can't measure that yet. So I'm on board with you there.
Yeah. So it's scientifically measured, but for me, what about spiritual measurement? And for me, that's from experience.
Right.
I measure my spiritual journey by my experience. In fact, there's a beautiful saying I say to myself, and not to be on a pedestal because I get it wrong a lot.
Yeah.
But there's a saying that somebody taught me or showed me a long time ago that I love, and it's my spiritual journey. Is the next person I meet.
Right. That reveals, that comes from outside of the veil.
Yeah.
Right.
So how do I treat them? How do I meet them? How do I speak to them? How do
you
I
treat them?
Respond to them? How do I judge them, project on them, react to them? So for me, my spiritual journey is measured by the next person I meet.
Right.
That's measurable for me, see?
Right. Interesting. How do we behave? How do we act?
Because to me, living one's spiritual life is different than theorizing it.
Oh, right. Yeah. Getting in the game. And that's when the emotional triggers and all these sorts of things start coming up again and again, in relationships.
Page 74 of Adrian's book, reactions, projections, and judgments.
Is that right?
Page 106.
Right.
I've got a whole chapter on projections, reactions, and judgments.
Yeah.
Because we do it constantly as human beings.
We do. A lot of us are unconscious to it, and I look back and how much I judge, and even today sometimes I have to pick myself up the thought before the mouth engages, and go, dude, is that about them or is that about you? It's so taking the opportunity to do that and give yourself that investment, that time, and I know it's tough for the corporate world to do that. The corporate world soaks you up and it'll take every bit of energy you've got. And it's you talk about the three economies, see, I do remember. All right, the three economies in energy, time, and
money.
Right? Money.
Don't forget the money economy, Tommy.
I think everybody's working there. Maybe I should concentrate on that one more these days. But everybody's got the money economy kind of sorted, although that is the end result of doing something usually of value.
Yeah.
So if you focus more on conserving energy and how you can best use that, you're getting into a state of flow, peak flow states to get peak performance sustainably, right? Which is what you and I work on. Then it just starts to come to you.
Yeah. And I think part of it, Tommy, is getting a clear picture of what I call that future potential self. Who do you want to become? Right. And it's back to that ultimate question you were asking before. Who am I? Well, when one starts to create the picture of who I want to become, and then I can set the sat nav. I want to be Grandmaster Adrian in terms of my energy flow and my ability to be with other people, etc. My writing, my teaching, and my traveling. I want to be in that peak performance.
Yep.
How can I start to visualize that? How can I get an understanding of what he might start to look like, walk like, talk like, smell like, drive like, live like? And so I start to create this new avatar of myself.
Right.
And then I've got something to move towards. And if people can give themselves a bit of time to start to develop that picture or image or vision of who they want to become, it's a good starting point.
Yeah, being visionary,
Yeah, being
having
a
that
visionary.
vision, and then emotionally engaging with it.
Yeah.
You know, how will it feel?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also looking at the shadow of what's stopping us getting there, of course, as well. You know, the little saboteurs and stories and the belief systems.
Right, outwitting the devil, so to
Yeah,
speak.
yeah, because they get in the way all the time, constantly.
Right.
Yeah.
And
I remember.
that's it.
I remember when my first book came out. You know, I had 3 opportunities to publish it, and I sabotaged every single one of them.
Right.
Fear of criticism got in the way.
Is that right?
Yeah, huge. You know, who am I to write a book? You know, and what if there's a
Right.
spelling mistake, and what if it doesn't look right, and blah blah blah. You know, total fear.
Or held you were tied to the dock. You're constantly
totally.
tied to the dock.
Yeah.
How
So
did
the
you get
second book
past
was
it?
a little bit easier,
Right.
and now, you know, my subsequent books, I'm still, even my novel is like, it's with my editor at the moment. We're doing the last final little, you know, it's like, what if I get a comma wrong? What if I get a, you know, semicolon wrong? You're like, I can still feel that, you know, the fear of being ridiculed or criticized. It's
Right.
still there. Right? But pushing through it and going, you know what? 98% of it is good enough. You know?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, it's yeah, and you know, it's just in our minds, right?
Yep.
It's just that turmoil, that thing that just keeps going on in here. You know, it's the same as that post I put out yesterday. What was it, 60, up to 60,000 thoughts a day? 90% of them are the same every day. Big chunk of them, obviously, in our subconscious.
Yeah.
And in there is a lot of negative, a lot of the garbage is sitting in there that holds us back.
Yeah.
You know?
We won't say what topic that is for most men. Statistically, there's stats on that as well. You know.
Oh my Lord. Okay. Well, we can go into
it's
that.
pretty constant for the male. You know.
Oh, right. Psyche. Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, look. So, what are you planning for the weekend as we head into Social Saturday? After, well, in fact, you and I are catching up tonight.
Got a dinner date tonight with my mate Tommy and another friend to talk business, and a business dinner tonight. So we can fight over the receipt for the taxman.
Okay.
And then tomorrow, Tom, I've actually got a pretty freed out. I'll just go down the organic market tomorrow to stock up on my organic veggies for the week. Usually going to have a cruise down there and meet a few people. And Sunday afternoon, I've got a really important social meeting with somebody. I won't go into my personal life too much on it today, but big turning point.
What's her name?
No, not going there. But yeah, just it's going to be a beautiful healing day on Sunday. So it'll be a very soulful Sunday.
Nice.
We're going to be meeting somebody to reconnect in terms of a soul space and you know, find out some deeper soul connection with each other about moving forward.
Okay.
So that's going to be beautiful. That's my intention. On Sunday. So it'll be very soulful. And then Monday, mate, you know, I'll be back in your corporate office doing some more filming.
There we go. Move it Monday.
Move it Monday. We'll be back up on, well, you can see the corporate space right behind Tommy there. So I'll be back there Monday.
As corporate as the Gold Coast gets.
Yeah.
But concrete, yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, nice.
Yeah. And then, and the other thing is, getting my game and my book all ready to hit the send button on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday for you know, trademarking and for publishing, and then there's a few other things I've got unfolding as well. Nice. So just full. I love having a full life, but in between all that, Tommy, meditation, body surfing, eating well, exercising, sleeping my 9 hours a night. You know what I'm currently doing.
Jeez,
I know you're telling me
that's a lot. Yeah, maybe a bit too much. Anyway, all right.
Is that such a thing? Like too much sleep? I'm just trying to get my head around that.
There is.
Oh, Tommy,
it's actually unhealthy.
We're going to talk about that on Monday. Let's pen this. Let's pen this for Monday.
Right, I better read up on my sleep stuff then.
Yeah, because the idea that there's too much sleep is just like it doesn't fit, right? It doesn't.
You hormonally screw yourself up for the day.
Yeah,
it's
but
like,
that's a great topic. You know, like the sleep balance is a good topic for us for Monday, I think. You know?
Okay, we've got a theme set in the content calendar for next week too. Can you
and mate, just not to forget the content for this week, the simplicity. You know, we have this today. You know, coming back to being simplicity. You know, what can you do more simply in your life in terms of finding out who you are? What's the simple process to find that out?
Yeah. Geez, we overcomplicated it, didn't we? You know, and all the systems and everything we built, which, you know, they are what they are. And, you know, kids to go to school and kids to look after, and this whole paradigm that we live within, and we can't just let those responsibilities go. We can change the shape of them and how we manage them, but it's just life became complex. We made it complex somehow, and most of that's in our head, I think. So
maybe Tommy, the question is how much of it is really necessary for me right now in my life. And if each individual asks that question, is there something I can let go of that's at the use by date?
Right.
What can I do in the new paradigm?
Right.
Like I've just moved, I've moved into my own apartment. I've got some stuff in storage.
Yeah.
Well, I'm realizing half that stuff in my storage shed I'm never going to use again.
Right.
So
same with me. I still got stuff in Singapore.
Yeah, it's like, if the old saying, if you don't use it in 6 months, do you really need it?
Yeah. And this is where the minimalist movement sort of, shows its wares. What do you actually really need? It's funny. You don't need a lot.
No.
You just, and it's interesting to see people that clutter up as well, and you then wonder about how their mind is working. Because going back to your point about, and the one I was making about complicated, I mean, if we're having those 90% of those 12 to 60,000 thoughts a day, again, repetitively, they're all in our head. We haven't done anything. We've chewed up a whole lot of energy. A lot of it's probably negative, and that's the part that feels so bloody complicated.
Yeah.
So,
it'll be the same when we go to a restaurant tonight. Like, the thoughts will be, where do I sit? What do I drink? What do I eat? What do I say? Already there's it's getting complicated.
Right. Exactly.
So tonight, mate, simple tonight. We just sit and have a bowl of plain boiled rice. Keep it simple.
Right. No wine.
Well,
no decisions to make.
You can have my share of wine, mate, because I don't drink.
Yeah, I know. Well, it's part of my heritage. I have to have a glass of wine.
Water's part of mine.
Yeah. Anyway, all right. So we're rambling on now. All right, mate. Well, look. Have a great weekend. Thanks for giving us the Adrian insight. Because we're still at very much the formative stages of the Corporate Alchemist project, and the group and the page, which this will go on to. And for those that are interested, the Corporate Alchemist project group on LinkedIn, come and knock on the door. And the page actually is where we're going to be putting a lot of content, not all of it, some of it's exclusive to the group, but we're also putting out the CAP TV, what we're doing here, is always out there on the Corporate Alchemist project page. Oh, managed to get that out. And what else have I forgotten, Adrian?
I think
people know about.
Yeah, I think just engage. Come on board, engage, share. Put it out to your own networks, to the other men in your networks, and
absolutely.
And let's get this movement happening. I think this is really important time. What we have to offer and share is right now.
Yeah. And it is right now. It's relevant right now, which is why we decided to kick this off. We thought, okay, I think the planet's ready, especially in the corporate world, for taking some of this stuff in. And we've got other stuff I know that you and I are cooking away on, which is retreats. We've got some
online work coming up. We're going to do some filming.
Yep. So there's more to come, guys. It's just the beginning. So
I might even write the book.
Oh no, another one. Hell, I got to still finish my first one. Okay.
All right,
have
Tommy.
a great one. We'll see you in about a couple of hours.
Well, mate. Thanks, everybody. Touch base soon.
Right.
See you.
Have a great weekend, all. Bye.